Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday's Daily Video Devo. Renee here. Here's what's going to happen on the Daily Video Devos this week. I am going to take a part of Mark chapters 11, 12, and 13. All of that happened on Tuesday of the final week of Jesus' life. There's a lot of stuff that happened that day. I was not able to cover it all yesterday and Saturday night in the sermon, so I'm going to look at some of the important passages that I did not get to. For example, in Mark 11:27, remember, Jesus has just the day before, on Monday, he's cleansed the temple, he's driven out the cattle and the sheep, and then he gets up and once he has the attention of the crowd, he criticizes severely the temple leadership, the high priests and the elders. He says, you have made this place into a den of robbers. You're just thieves. And then he leaves, and the chief priests and the elite, the elders, they're flat-footed. They're like, who is this guy? They weren't prepared for that. Well, the next day he comes back, and this time they are ready, and they rush out to see him. Mark 11, verse 27. Once more, Jesus and his disciples went into Jerusalem as Jesus was walking into the temple. As he's walking in, he's approached by the chief priests, the legal experts, and all of the elders. They come rushing up to him, like they're trying to prevent him from a repeat. And these were the elite. The Annas family had 4 sons and a son-in-law who had all been chief priests in succession. One of them, the son-in-law Caiaphas, was the chief priest when this happens. So they're not just elite. They're like the Brahmins. They're like the Sopranos. It's one family controlling this whole thing. So Jesus has criticized them. Here's the next thing they say. Who gave you the authority to do these things? By what right are you doing them? And this is a classic response of abusive political, religious, any kind of authority when it is challenged. It doesn't actually grapple with the arguments of the person. Instead, it tries to question the authority of the person. This is known as an ad hominem attack. Who are you to come up with? They're telling Jesus, you're a nobody. Who gave you the authority? It's like if somebody moves to Santa Cruz and they have some idea about, how to improve traffic or help with some social problem. And people say, what do you know? You've only been here 6 months. That doesn't matter. They might have a good idea. Beware of this ad hominem argument. You see this all the time, where instead of dealing with the argument against somebody, instead of dealing with the charges, people will just attack somebody. I mean, listen, I just described social media. It's just one attack against a person after another. And that's one of the reasons I just don't do it anymore. I'm tired of hearing people do this. So Jesus says, well, I tell you what, if you tell me this, I'll tell you by what authority I am doing these things. Was the baptism of John from heaven? He's talking about John the Baptist here. Or was it just a human invention? What's your answer? Well, the chief priests and the elite here are absolutely, again, flat-footed by this brilliant chess move by Jesus. Because if they say, well, we believe that God sent John, then he can come back and say, well, then why didn't you follow the one to whom he pointed, Jesus Christ? And if they say, well, it wasn't from God, he was crazy, he was wildcatting, the crowd's going to hate them and turn against them because the crowd loved John. And so they turn to Jesus after a little discussion and they say, we don't know. And that had to have been the very first time this crowd ever heard these characters say, we don't know. They were always so certain and hyper-authoritarian about everything. So like in half a sentence, Jesus has got them to say, we don't know, and kind of undermine their own authority. Just brilliant. But of course, the irony of the whole thing is that Jesus is the one with authority. He has ultimate authority and ultimate credibility over you and over me and over the whole world. In fact, here's one way to clarify life. Sometimes people come up to me and say, well, what does the Bible say about this? Let's simplify it. What does Jesus say? For example, Jesus says not to call anybody a fool. Well, again, social media, don't call people fools. Jesus says, don't look at somebody you're not married to in lust. All right, well, maybe we won't be perfect, but he said not to do that. Jesus said to feed the poor. We don't even have to wonder if it's a good idea. Jesus said it. Jesus has all authority. Today, start your day by praying, Jesus, you have all authority over me and all authority over the world. And so I choose to place myself under your authority today.